Welcome to Positive Filter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and people. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Filter. I'm joined by a special guest. Well, every person is a special guest. I'm joined by Madam President Janae Johnson. Now, the reason why I call her Madam President is because she is currently the president of the GMU Black Alumni Chapter, and that's how we became affiliated and friends as well. And so before we get into this episode, I want Janae, go ahead and just give the listeners a little, elevator pitch of who you are, and we're going to get right into it.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Phil, for having me on Positive Filter today. My name, as he said, is Janae Johnson, originally from Petersburg, Virginia. I always start with that because I rep my hometown hard. I am a graduate, two-time alumni of George Mason, and currently work at the university in our Office of Branding, doing student employment and enrichment. I also teach there and advise students through some of our organizations. And outside of all of the Mason hats, I am a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and very committed to my church. I'm member of Alpha Street, and let's see, I don't know. I am a higher ed / people person. I always say I'm in the business of helping others. And
also a
so
world traveler.
Oh, yes. I love to travel. Love to travel. I was just telling someone today, I have a personal goal of visiting all 50 states by the time I'm 35. Now, listeners, y'all don't need to know how old I am, but what I will say is the person I was speaking with said, well, we lost 2 years in COVID, so you get 2 extra years. I said, yes, I'll take those. I'll take those.
I'll take that. I love that. I love that introduction. I think it also shows the multifaceted, talented person that you are. I think getting right into it, I introduced you as Madam President. And so one of the things that I really want to focus on in this episode is your journey as alumnus, or your alumni journey. So go back to that two-time alum, and that journey as in getting more involved post-graduation.
Got it. Yeah. So I finished my undergrad from Mason in 2011, and almost immediately started working at the university. So we finished that May. I started working in it August. There was very little break in between. And coming out, I hadn't really, as a recent grad, I had not thought about what it meant to be an alumni, what it meant to be involved or participatory with an alumni association, really at all, until sometime into me working there, David Atkins, who tends to grab a lot of folks, but Atkins reached out to me, and he asked, it was 2012 by this time, and he asked me if I would be interested in filling a vacancy they had on the board. It was a secretary position. That was it. I don't even know if I had attended an event with the Black Alumni Chapter or not. Like, I don't even remember that far back, one, but then two, I really don't think I had. But I was a very involved student. And so for me, it was almost innate to want to give back, to want to be connected. I did not by any means foresee that I would still be on the board come some 10 years later. But it's been a great journey. I think I've seen various levels by starting as secretary, then moving into the VP of events role for a number of years. outside of my higher ed
Mhm.
service oriented brain, I also plan events and programs on the side, and I've always loved hosting. So that was a natural alignment. And now, and how we met, Phil, is through the presidency that I've been so fortunate to serve in this role for the past 2 terms. So it's been an interesting journey.
I want to go back because one, there's two questions that popped in my head as I saw that. It was one, 2012, he reached out to you. Obviously, David Atkins, probably, I think he's the core for both of us reaching out. How did he
Yeah.
do that? Like, was it like a text or was it like, how did he introduce? He's like, hey, I knew that you were involved as a student. Like, was it an email? Like, what kind of outreach
So
was this back in 2012?
this was a person to person outreach. At the time, we were we were working. I don't know if he was still in the Johnson Center or not,
Okay,
but I had known him from his time at like student centers, and I'm terrible with timelines, so let me just
yeah,
put that disclaimer out
you
there.
got it. Sometime in the past, we just lump it
And, you
together.
know, it happened some time
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
That's all I know. It happened some time ago. But I know it was an in-person outreach, and I would never forget where we were, though. We were in
Mhm.
Merton Hall.
Okay.
And so I do know that much. We were in Merton Hall when he asked me. And I remember thinking, I just graduated. What do you mean?
Yeah, yes, yes, yes.
That was like my initial reaction. But after that, you know, the as most people who are used to convincing others to do things, you know, they sell you on what it the
Mhm.
oh, it won't be that much of a lift. You know,
Okay.
you just got to come to this.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
love
don't
it.
really know what you're getting into. Uh, but it was a good thing. I say that jokingly, but it honestly has been a great experience and a great organization to be a part of because I've been able to connect with alum I may not have ever met.
Mhm.
Um, just by pure virtue of being affiliated with this organization and the larger alumni association.
I love that. So, and then I'm thinking currently, I am trying to, I'm writing it down on timelines. You got involved in between that gap as an undergrad while getting your master's. So, can you speak
Mhm.
to those experiences? Like, was it helpful, for you to be involved concurrently as a graduate student, and it was almost like a way to network and build professional relationships in grad school? Or was
Hmm.
it just a lot of work extra to grad school, like just burning you out? You was doing grad school and a lot of this commitments, like, like
I think I won't say burnout, but it definitely was a lot of work. I am not, I didn't, I hadn't thought about the connections that were being made. So I'm such a people person.
Mhm,
And when I say I'm a people person, I mean, I firmly believe and lead with people first. People
mhm,
above process, people above position, people, period. And so for me, as I would meet people, I'm more so interested in like, who are you? And
mhm,
getting to know them and not necessarily considering the networking piece of that and the
mhm,
alignments that you can make. So for me and my personal journey, as it relates to the alumni chapter, not so much for grad school, and that may have also been because I went to grad school at Mason, and
mhm,
so like all of my connections were really formed out of the fact that I was working there and
mhm,
also had attended school there and was also back in school.
mhm,
Um, Now, I will say beyond the grad school piece, professionally, it has been very beneficial. I meet alum all the time or people who are friends of Mason that have been connected with us. Random, oh, I have the best story about this actually. So, as one of the recipients of our inaugural 40 under 40 class, I planned that.
Mhm.
The whole
Yeah.
decor, the help with the program, everything. And I was working in events in DC for for a family that has a fairly reputable real estate business,
Mhm.
and working their annual holiday party. And while I was there, the one of the attendees and I struck up a conversation. And in conversation, now for those of you who may not know me, I can sometimes read a little young. People think I'm still a student a lot of times when I'm out and about. And so she and I were talking, and then got on the fact that I had gone to Mason, and she knew, so she was not associated with Mason at all, but she knew and had seen pictures from
Yes.
our 40 under 40 event because of this whole real estate networking world, right? And as she's talking, she was like, "Yes, I love the decor." And it was just so elegant and really complimenting it. And I reflected back to her, thank you, because for me, that was a point of pride. It was a lot of work that went into making that event happen. And she said, "Wow. So you
Yeah.
are here working this event, but you executed that and wanted to connect with me for business." And because of I was working with a friend's company, I don't ever do that. When I'm working for a friend's company, I always elevate my friend first. And I said, "No, but we can connect outside of this." But it was just a testament to the fact
Mhm.
that you never really know who is watching and who is going to see what you put out into the world. And then two, there's a lot of skill and opportunity development that can come from volunteering your time with certain
Yeah.
organizations.
Yes. I was literally about to get to that because I thought that too was very transferable. Secretary, all
Mhm,
the different roles. At which, and I love asking this question in regards to volunteer leadership, is
mhm,
in here's a twofold question. At which point did the skills you learned from volunteering bleed over into your normal 9 to 5? So like the skills of volunteering in there, and then the vice versa, the inverse is when have the skills of your normal 9 to 5 bled over into your to your volunteering? And I've seen the intersection. Technically, I've seen that with you with both, right? Like
mhm,
your event planning, programming, all that stuff obviously translates to you executing programs and events with your job and
mhm,
things like that. But then vice versa, the leadership. So can you explain some times where that one helped other and the other helped one?
mhm. I would say it's really free flowing.
Yep.
Um, it's the best way I could put it, because, well, I'll start with the 9 to 5 because that came first.
Okay.
Chicken for the egg, which came first,
Yeah.
I don't know, but the
Yeah.
9 to 5 came first in this case.
Yeah.
And so for me, I work with students primarily, and I also in my career have always held some type of customer
Hmm.
facing role. Not so much now. I sometimes miss it, sometimes I don't. But
Yeah.
but I'm used to customer service, customer experience. And I would say that has helped me tremendously as it relates to volunteer leadership, because I try to lead from a place of empathy and understanding, always not trying to assume that I know what someone else is going through, and or why someone may be showing up in a way that they are, because it's weird 'cause in a job setting, and I've always been a supervisor or a manager. So your motivator is your check. A lot of times it's the financial security that you're receiving from working, say, a job. as a volunteer, you don't have money as a motivator. It usually
That's it.
like
Okay.
I
Yeah.
can't tie the fact
I mean,
that
you
you're
can't
not
really
showing
fire
up for
someone.
something,
Yeah.
right? That you're not showing up
Yeah.
and dock you in your performance evaluation. I can't do that. That doesn't happen in a volunteer role.
Sure. Okay. Sure.
It
Sure.
just doesn't.
Yeah.
So, you have to kind of take a different approach. And so I would say what my volunteer role has taught me for my 9 to 5 outside of, the event planning, etc., is really paying attention to
Mhm.
team dynamic and also the unspoken realities that a lot of us hold. And so I lean heavily into trying to check in with folks to see how they're doing, not pushing too much. And that shows up with my students. I'll often just pop up on them and say, "Hey, how you doing?"
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
checking in. Just want to have a conversation, and or maybe a lot of times that's also highlighting for them. Hey, I've noticed this. Did you realize this was happening? What's going on? Is there anything I can help you with? And moving from there.
I think also you found, I think what you identified too was finding that carrot that is unique for other people. So,
Mhm.
like in a volunteer a volunteer organization, what is really motivating them? Because they're not getting paid. So maybe for them, it's, oh, I understand, particularly as a president, you want to be on my board, not mine, but this board because
With this
X, Y,
board,
and
yeah.
Z, this is your thing. How can I help you get to that? Right. Or this is what drives you. And I guess you do a really good job at that. I was already going to say that off the break is like, oh, like I know that you wanted to do this to connect with others, or I know you wanted to do this because this role had this skill building opportunity. And I want to give you the opportunity to build those skills. So I found that very interesting. I wrote that down because in regards to volunteer leadership, you have to think about maybe a different carrot because they ain't getting paid, right?
Not at
That's,
all.
that's not the carrot you can hold over people's heads anymore, right? Like,
Exactly. Not at all. And I think that's the other thing. Like when it comes to volunteer leadership, well, actually, not even leadership. Well, I think everyone's a leader in their own respect, but
okay,
we'll leave that conversation for another day.
yeah,
Uh, but when it comes to volunteers in particular, it has to be something that is intrinsic because if it's externally motivated, then what happens is if that pressure is removed in any way, then the motivation to continue or persist may be affected. Whereas if it's coming from within, like I really want to do this or I have this goal, and if it's communicated, people have to be upfront with what they're trying to gain from an opportunity. If they know what they want to gain, and if they don't know what they want to gain, be willing to explore what are the possibilities that exist.
I love it. Now, you're very. Have you? I think you've seen the macro and the micro of alumni engagement from you said the
Hmm.
large Mason alum to Affinity Black alum.
Hmm.
How how important and for you that this is not giving advice to other, but how important was for you to be very engaged in an affinity based one? It's still connected. You're still connected to the other one, but like, how important is that? Was that identity in regards to this alumni engagement for you?
Mm. So my time at Mason was an experience.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying to
okay.
think of a good
That was a
way.
nice way. We can just leave it at that. It's an experience.
It was an experience, and
Blackness
not
is
in
an
a
experience. Yes, yeah.
not in yeah. It's just so much happened
Hmm.
in those years between 2007 and 2011. I mean, there was a lot that happened,
Okay.
um, in like my life personally, my own development, and I think for me. While I love my academic program, though I got 2 degrees from
Mhm.
College of Humanities and Social Sciences. Shout out to all my social science folks. I rep psychology hard all day.
Yeah.
The my network, my social network was
Mhm.
really Black centric.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm a Delta, so that was one. But
Yeah.
before I was, and I always say this, before I was a Delta, I was a part of BSA. I
Mhm.
was in NAACP. For Mason, we have a Coma Circle, which is a mentorship program.
Yes.
I was in Anointed Voices of Unity back in the day. Hallelujah. Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
now they're Anointed Vessels of Unity. And so, I had my social groups that really enriched my experience at Mason.
Mhm.
So as an alumna, when I think about how I connect and identify with the institution, it's really through those social groups and the
Mhm.
friends that I made in those communities, which are our tie is our Black identity.
Mhm.
Not to disregard, any of the academic chapters, because I think we all have a purpose.
Mhm.
But for me, it's very important to show up and to be present because even now, when I was at Mason, we were like 8% Black or
Mhm.
somewhere between 6 and 8% Black. Now we're like 13, 14%, which means there are more and more students who look like me that are coming up
Mhm.
and experiencing similar or sometimes worse challenges, but some are experiencing they have a better experience
Mhm.
because of initiatives and
Yeah.
or programs and or whatever that was laid before them. And so I think it's important that specifically our Black African heritage students see alumni that look like them because it is a visual representation that you can and will persist through this time. And that we want you to be on this side of alumni status, right? We don't want um, because for some folks it takes a long time for various reasons, and that can sometimes be discouraging. But that's why I love when I see alum who did not take the traditional 4 years, or they maybe are transfer students or a grad student. Like you're an alum because you're a grad student. I think that's fantastic because it doesn't matter when you attended Mason or what degree or certificate you obtained, but the fact that you attended and that you are in the number.
I mean, I'll be totally transparent. Similar to your story about personalization and David Atkins reaching out to me, I had no desire at the at large alum to get involved, and
Mhm.
concurrently because of that, it did bleed over. Like getting involved in affinity has made me want to be more engaged at a larger, and so
Mhm.
being engaged as a Black alumni chapter concurrently made me more engaged as an alum at the at
Mhm.
large. But that was my gateway to alumni engagement was through
Mhm.
um, people that personally reached out to me, and then a smaller community that led to a larger community, if that makes sense. And I think that's an experience of a lot of people. I think a lot of people said I would not be engaged at the at large alum if it wasn't for this affinity group bringing me in. Have you heard of that
Mhm.
instance before? Like, am I just kind of a unicorn, or is that like no? I've heard a lot of that. Like because of the Black Alumni Chapter involvement, now I'm looking at the bigger involvement of alumni, bigger than just this affinity group.
In the way of leadership, I would absolutely say, and not just with the Black Alumni Chapter, but alumni chapters
Mhm.
across the board. Um, that's usually how that leadership is groomed and nurtured, because it gives you that chapter experience, and then you can expand upon that and join, at least at Mason, the larger alumni association. And I can think of a couple board members who like sitting board members now who have that experience where they
Yeah.
started at the smaller chapter and just expanded upon that. And I also think that could be true for anyone, even if you're not seeking leadership, but seeking volunteer experience or
Mhm.
just some type of service. Starting with the chapter where it's smaller, you maybe know a few more people than you would know going to a larger activity, and then translating that on up.
Yeah, I was about to say that too. Like, I think my involvement in Alpha has translated up to larger
Uh
involvement.
huh.
And I was joking with a friend the other day, and I'm on the board for a professional development organization for counseling, and I went to a board meeting, and I realized, oh man, I've seen this before, like this Robert Rules of Order and all this stuff. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, this this situation has translated. I wasn't like that. It wasn't different to me, and it lessened the pedestal of that larger organization. I don't know. I just felt like that translated, and that was a good feeling for me.
No, I absolutely agree. And I'm seeing that now because I'm somehow or another have gotten more involved in my alumni chapter for Delta, which surprises me sometimes. I'm like, I don't want to take on anything else on my
Mhm.
plate. And
Yeah,
people ask me, and I'm like, okay, I'll
yeah,
figure it out.
yeah, always. Yeah.
But in doing that, you're absolutely right. I think for me it's the flip because I've stayed financial and a part of an alumni chapter since I graduated from undergrad, but I haven't always held some type of like leadership. I've served on a couple of committees here and there, but nothing too robust, right? Until recently, where um, I'm chairing a committee right now within my chapter. I'm also on a member of a committee, and in addition to the stuff I do with Mason. And so for me, because I've had this experience within the Black Alumni Chapter for so
Mhm.
many years, I am not as uncertain within
Mhm.
myself, which is a good space to be in. And I also feel, I think, a little more prepared than I would have felt if I had just come into it raw, like not having any kind of experience.
Now, recently, you went to a, I guess, regional conference for Black alum.
A
Uh,
national conference,
National.
yes.
Okay, I was about to say national.
Mhm.
What was some of the first of all, can you just give a debrief about that? Like, this is going to be your opportunity on the podcast for me to actually pick your brain about how that experience was. And then, yeah, just first of all, let me just pick your brain. How was that experience? And just give the listeners a little bit what that's about. And then I'm gonna have some questions about that experience for you.
Oh, absolutely. I am excited to share about this. So, the conference we attended was the Black Alumni Collective's national conference. And the Black Alumni Collective is a group of an organization of Black alumni chapters from across the nation and abroad because there's a chapter from Oxford that's a part of the Black
Okay.
Alumni Collective,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
random, right? But okay,
Yeah.
sure,
Okay.
let's
Take
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I'm with
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So the conference was held in Durham. The collective is amazing because you have alumni coming in. So their national
Mhm.
conference is for all alumni.
Okay.
They also have a leadership conference that happens on the odd year.
Mm.
Excuse me. That's just for like the board leadership,
Okay.
trustees,
Mhm.
executives within the institutions. So it's a much smaller convening, but this
Mhm.
national conference is the larger one. And we didn't know that
Okay. All right.
in
That's
its
what I'm saying.
full entirety. We didn't quite understand that, I think, going in, because last year the board participated in the leadership conference in 2023. No, this is 2022. So in 2021, we participated in the leadership conference, which was fully virtual. And it was cool. And we got to meet and network with a lot of folks, which is why we wanted to attend the in person conference this year.
Okay.
But when I say the programming for that conference was just out of this world, the speakers and panels that they had were so thought provoking and well versed in their fields. And I loved the lineup of topics. And so, and I mean, they covered topics, everything from the Black Wall Street to health
Mm.
and voting. And I'm trying to think of all of the agenda.
It's just dope.
And hmm,
It just sounded dope, like all these
oh my
topics.
gosh, so dope. And it was great to see all of these Black alumni in one space from all of the universities across the nation. And everyone was wearing their swag and they had so much
Mhm.
school pride. And it was held at Duke University. And so it's funny because one of the days we took a group picture on the steps of the chapel. And one of the alumni from Duke was like, I don't know if I should say this, but oh well, we're saying it.
Mm.
One of the alumni was like, this is the first time they've seen this many Black people at Duke on
Fact.
the chapel steps
Yeah.
at one time, right? And that's really it
Yeah.
hit me heavy because it's like it's 2022.
Mhm.
And it's not like it was thousands of us. We weren't in that kind of mass. It was, you know, like maybe a couple hundred, maybe close.
Mhm.
And so to hear that and to have heard the stories from the honorary co-chairs who were graduates of Duke from like
Mhm.
the 70s, I want to say,
Yeah.
and hearing their experiences, it was just it filled me in a way I hoped it exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
It exceeded my expectations because I knew based on my experience last year, and I had also attended the virtual component they had this year. So I knew from those two experiences that I was going to be fed, but I did not realize to the extent that my cup would overflow from being able to be in community with people who were so like minded in terms of wanting to see their individual chapters succeed, but also ultimately contribute and help the current students matriculate through and move forward. But then also just folks who were really committed to advancing Black people. You know, you don't see that too often where there's a collective effort and an intentional effort because it's like the advancement of one group does not mean the
Mhm.
we want other groups to fail at all by any means, but it does mean we are being intentional with how we spend our time, how we dedicate our resources, and what we're talking about to advance certain objectives. And I thought that was really profound.
I love it. Was there other Virginia chapters at that conference?
So funny you asked that question. That is one of the things that we and I say we, you know, I'm always gonna find myself involved in something. But that's one of the things we want to work on is having more Virginia chapters represented at this. It was just us and one other school from Virginia that attended the conference. And so we're hoping that next year we'll see more Virginia, because there are a lot of schools in Virginia that have Black alumni chapters.
Yeah.
And one of your other alma mater
Yeah.
has which I'm very familiar with, and you know
Yeah.
I've worked with their leadership before. But we have to do. There's definitely an opportunity here to have more of a presence, and also to have more of a community that we build and form out. Because within Virginia, specifically within like the DMV area, all of our schools are so close together.
Mm-hmm.
And so there, I remember being in undergrad, especially, there was a lot of mixing between American GW,
Yeah.
and Marymount. Oh my gosh, Mary Washington. There's just so many schools here, and so we had to do more. But I very much enjoyed the Black Alumni Collectives Conference. Very well organized. The organizers are highly communicative, which I appreciate. I appreciate more communication than not enough. So,
One thing I think about when I go to conferences is that they're great, like, information sharing and also reaffirming or not reaffirming. So
mm-hmm,
when you were there, when you were at the conference, this national conference and going to sessions, and this is a twofold, where were things where like, wow, we're really doing it. We're doing good things. Like when you go to these sessions and you're like, yeah, we're doing that. We're doing that. We're doing that.
mm-hmm,
And you're like,
mm-hmm.
yeah, this is reaffirming we're on the right path. And then what were some things from the conference, and I don't like use were growth opportunities, like, wow, that's something we need to embed here at Mason. These are some good ideas. Like your experiences, what were some things that you felt like we're doing really well, and wow, this is reaffirming as a Black alumni chapter at Mason? And then not saying not reaffirming, but like more growth, like, wow, that could be a good idea we can implement or make it stronger, or make our chapter or make this experience better for GMU.
Mm-hmm. So I would say this time, the conference really didn't speak as much to alumni chapters and the work that
Oh,
alumni chapters was doing, which I found interesting
yeah.
because
Yeah.
last time it did, and even the virtual conference didn't, it was really more, it was very topic heavy. And so
Mm-hmm.
as you were asking me the question, I'm actually looking at my notes right now.
I love it. I love when you actually take notes at a conference. Keyword, this is a professional development thing. And I'm not saying you're not alone. I actually, every time I go to a conference, I think of it as a long class. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what I'll try to do when I go to a conference while you're looking at your notes is I try to think like, what can be something I can actually take away? Because there's times where,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to conferences, you're networking, and let's be honest, you really don't like all that information and learning new things. You're not really going to implement everything, right? Like you only get like one
Right.
or two takeaways. So like I
Mm-hmm.
have gone to conferences and say, okay, I will learn new things all through this, and then I go back and review. And I'm like, what is actually something I can do? And I'll take one real learning objective. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not alone. I take notes. I take mad notes at all these conferences I go to. A lot of the notes also is like who I need to talk to later and connect with people. But I do take some
Right.
real ideas. Like what I just asked you was like, yo, because like for instance, I went to the Virginia conference and I'm like, that school does this really well for their career center. Let's try to
Mm-hmm.
find a way to embed that one idea.
Mm-hmm.
You can't implement every new idea.
Everything.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I would say for me, and I know the listeners can't see this,
Yeah.
but if you can, I'm gonna show you this
I can
video.
see it. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see, this is my margin. I have my margins here that
Yeah.
are literally just questions from Mason that were prompted
Mm,
out of what we were discussing. And I
yeah.
would say one thing I took away
Mm-hmm.
that we could do better
Mm-hmm.
is being aware of the positions that alumni hold. When I say positions, I mean
Mm-hmm.
professional positions, positions of influence, and positions of power, and how we can better position our Black alumni to hold leadership roles, not just within the Black Alumni Chapter, but across the university spectrum. So I'm talking every alumni chapter and on the Alumni Association board, board of trustees, board of visitors, like at every level, I would love to have Black alumni have a seat at the table.
I get what you're saying. Like distribution of like alum that go on and contribute to things. So like you said, okay, like we know in the Virginia State Senate that we have one Black alum that's sitting there.
Right.
Like that the alum go on to be, as you just said, involved in different things, or a CEO of a company. Like, and there's other, I would say, I'm not saying that they do it better, but I can just think of my mom, Hampton. I don't, I'm just thinking of HBCUs in general. Like, you go to Hampton, they know Hampton's here and Hampton's there, and HU
You
this,
see
HU that,
Hampton,
and
right?
they're here, and they go here and they go there, and then like you said, like where
They know.
they're octopused out into different sectors.
We have
That's
to
what
be
Mason isn't.
intentionally right, but we don't know it, and I think
That's what I
that's
was about
the
to say. Like, it's
that's
not
the
the fact that
piece.
we're not there; it's the knowledge of. I love
Exactly. And so that's why I said we have to know where our
it.
people are, like what positions they hold, and do a better job of connecting and working with them to bring them in if they're not already connected to like the Black Alumni Chapter in particular. Because one of the other pieces that I took away from this, and it's been sitting on my spirit for a very long time now, and it's a piece of like mentorship that word keeps coming up, but mentorship looks and means different things for different people. And so really trying to figure out how do we, is this something, well, not is this, but how do we make this work for our constituents? Because alumni are talking about it. I know some students are also talking about it and wanting to feel connected earlier. And so those were my pieces that came away. And then I would say the one thing that we're doing really good is it's going to sound weird, but I mean it intentionally. So we have the Black educated thinker gear that we wear.
Oh, okay, that's not
Oh my
weird.
goodness.
Everyone loves it.
Everyone loves that gear. I mean, love it, eat it up. And the reason I say we do that well is because it goes back to what we were just talking about in terms of seeing Hampton. By seeing the Black educated thinker gear, you know that's Mason. You know that's the Black Alumni Chapter. And it is so vitally important to me that we have that and that we always show up and wear that when we are in a collective, like especially when we're going somewhere as a collective, because there's power and strength in numbers. And to see that visual representation of, oh, y'all came and organized and coordinated, like that's a thing. And there were a lot of compliments the day that we wore our gear. And I want to see that more, not just with the Black Alumni Chapter, but that's a personal thing I want to also see with Mason as a whole. I want to see people wearing Mason gear more because that's really one of the only ways you will identify that is someone you have a connection with, be it through alumni status, or maybe it's a current student who sees someone wearing some Mason gear and find out they're an alum. A man stopped me in the grocery store the other day because I had on some Mason gear and was like, my son wants to come to Mason and he wants to be a pilot. And I was like, oh, that's great. You should talk to our admissions team, really connecting people in that way.
No, I actually, hands down, it's not weird at all. Hands down, multiple people have stopped me about the Black educated thinker. And when I say multiple, Black, white, and other, like even other people, like, wow, like, is a very powerful statement. And it's one, I would say with Brandness, like, it is one that invokes Black pride, but also it also has that Mason pride, and also like sparks curiosity, because I've even got white people saying, oh, Black educated thinker, that's great. And then they'll see the Mason part, and then we have a conversation about Mason. And so I don't know, I'm just smiled a lot. I wrote that down. Like, I think that is, I don't know who struck that. Who came up with that? Just go backstory. That's gonna be another one. Who came up with that originally? I know because you've been around since that's been around. You got to need a backstory to that one, because that is something that came up. I've seen staff members that even didn't go to Mason
Mm-hmm.
I shared that. I've shared that
My
with
aunts
staff
were
members.
it. They didn't
Yeah,
go to
like
Mason. Hale
no,
State. They went
I
to
literally
Virginia
have put
State.
it in.
Trojans all
And
day.
me and you are in the same group chats. Me and you are in the group chats with
Mm-hmm.
Mason faculty, and we'll sell that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, there is a powerful statement. As one is about education, intellect. It has a really strong meaning. But I need to know the origin story, or somewhat, if you know the origin or remember the origin story, or the urban myth of it, whatever. I just need to hear a little bit about this.
So I will say it started as what it has been, a fundraising campaign. We wanted something that would appeal to our audience and would communicate a strong message. And that was it. Now, all the parties that were involved, I don't remember all the parties, but I will say, for those of us that were, I can't say I was on the board at
Yeah.
that time, and for those of us who were on the board, once we settled on Black educated thinker, because there was a lot of thought bubbles around what we could say.
Yeah.
But once it was settled on, this was the phrase we wanted to go with. It stuck. It just stuck.
No.
And because it stuck, it's been here. And I will say, we're working on something. I'm working on something as we speak, uh, to bring that to the masses in a more consistent fashion, and hopefully with some additional products. So
Yes.
I'm excited.
To be determined. What is it?
To be
Teaser. That
the
was a
to be the
teaser.
TBD.
That's it. And
TBD.
I think I will say this, as someone that works in branding, office of brand, you are also a guru. We can do a little bit of plugs about that later, about your other branding gifts. But I think
Mhm.
one thing that was also very, very intentional and powerful was that while it had the Mason logo, it had the African colors, Pan African colors.
There you
That was
go.
very intentional. The red,
Mhm.
the green, and the black. I
Mhm.
have two shirts. I have a long sleeve and a short sleeve. Every time they go on it, we never have to worry, like a bubble, like, oh, this is a fundraiser. We're gonna have extra shirt. Nope, it sells out. Never does. It always does. And I don't know. I literally smiled. Like I don't know. I didn't know you were gonna bring that up, but that was a very powerful thing. It resonates with so many people. I think
Yeah,
it
it
resonates with a lot
does.
of alum, because you realize that, like, okay, one, I'm Black, done. I'm educated. I completed a degree. That's that's what you think of. And then thinker, I think thinker is applicable to anyone, college or not, but it's just meaning that,
Mhm.
like, as a tool, my mind is a powerful tool, and
Mhm.
that with education comes a responsibility to be informed,
Mhm.
awareness. I think
Mhm.
it transcends education. So,
It
like,
does.
it's,
It does.
okay,
And it
I
leads.
didn't know if we wanted to be that deep about it, but it was a pretty powerful message.
But it was because I remember thinking about learner, and like I was like, oh, it doesn't hit the same. And
Yeah.
then we hit thinker, and I was like, oh, BET, come on, let's go.
Oh, snap. Yo, I am so slow. I am so slow. Do you realize? Do you realize? I just realized that was BET. Like
Uh-huh.
today. Like today. Like,
Today at what? On May 18th. Let's keep it going.
yeah, that's slow. That wow, Black BET. Wow.
And so I think I love what you said about thinker, well,
Mhm,
educated and thinker in particular,
mhm,
because for
mhm.
me, I've always looked at higher education as a privilege.
Yes.
Not everyone is fortunate to obtain
Mhm,
um, access to higher education.
mhm.
And I am the granddaughter of folks who weren't able to, well, that's a whole other story, but
Yeah.
half of my grandparents went to college, the other half didn't, right? And
Mhm.
so, but even for the half that didn't go, I think they were the smartest people that I've ever had the
Yeah.
privilege of talking to and knowing, because they were well read.
Mm.
They consumed information from so many different sources, be it books, be it news, be it word of mouth. And for me, I think that educated thinker piece is the one that really resonates the most. I mean, outside of being Black, but
Yeah.
for me, black, 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 black.
Yeah.
But for me, that educated thinker is applicable to everyone.
Yes.
And you don't just have to, and it says you're not only an educated thinker because you went to college, you are an educated thinker because you have the ability and the capacity to do so. And so I love that. But yes.
I like the thinker too, and I wrote privilege. I got so many notes. I'm taking notes right now, and the one thing I think about with that is what educated and thinker is that while access to information is available, are you using that to think? Free thinking. Are you using that to, think for yourself? Obviously, particularly in a world of misinformation, all that, like that thinking part is very, very important right now. Like we have the information, but are you
using it?
Are we using it? Are we marinating on it? Are we? And that's not saying a thinker does not mean you have the answer, but it's also like you're processing it. And I don't know. I think
that critical piece.
I don't know.
Not
That
just
resonates a lot with everybody. I think that every time people stop me, it's funny too. And this is my other caveat. It's like, you can wear like something like say Black Pride or something like that, or I love being Black or something like that. And people be like, I don't know. They'd be like side-eyed about it or something like that's, I don't know why. Like, you get what I'm saying, right? Like,
yeah, I do.
Like, but when I wear that Black educated thinker, it's still open, as you said. It's weird. It's intersectional, meaning it's intersectional to my identity as being Black. It's very prideful. It's very like, Black diaspora. I'm proud of who I am, but at the same time, I think concurrently it opens up some universality too. Like, we all want to be educated. We all want to be thinkers. And then you got the Mason part. You're an alum of Mason. So whoever came up with that, keep on doing it. I'm going to keep on wearing my shirt. I think I wear that junk at least once a week.
Listen, you and me both.
I wear it randomly. I don't know. I guess one of the t-shirts you just wear. I'll be wearing it at work. I wear it on telework days.
So you talked. You talked about me traveling at the beginning. So little insider tip here. Every time I travel, I wear my Black educated thinker gear.
Okay, got it.
And I wear my Mason gear. So I might wear Delta, but I usually wear.
I was about to say, okay, I was about to ask that last one too.
Yeah. Sometimes it depends on where I'm going and what I'm doing, and also how I'm feeling that day. But like, what do I want to talk about? But the reason I wear the Black educated thinker and the Mason gear in particular is because usually I'm traveling to a different state. And so as I'm traveling to another state, I want someone else to see George Mason or Black educated thinker George Mason. So we can spark up a conversation, or they can at least have their interest piqued by my BE t-shirt. Now that one always gets looks. Always.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about that too. As you go out and navigate the world, you put on these context clues of your connections, and it sparks conversations. So I've learned that now very early on, now, that if there's any time to put like little pins or bracelets or whatever, you're thinking about it thoughtfully. Like, these are things to spark conversation in addition to look good. Well, Janae, we can keep on going on and on. I think that this has been super. I don't know. I think I might even change the title of this episode to BET now that I know that what it is, like legit. But I did make a falsify. I don't know. You listen to my podcast. You probably know this is coming, but I lied anyway. Shot for shot. You ask me a random question, I ask you a random question. That's a segment always incorporated in my show. I always throw people off. It's one of my favorite things to throw off. Do you want to
Oh,
go
forget.
first? Or I go first.
You go first because you know I forgot about it. And I listened, so I knew this was coming.
Yeah, you
It's
know what's
still
coming. I know you listen. So you said 50 states by 35. Now,
We're gonna add a
let's
couple
say,
years per year.
yeah, a
Okay.
couple years. So now, one, not I'm not going to put you on spotlight over under how many exactly what states you've been to or not, but let's say right now I gave you a lot of money and you can use this money for your next 3 states. What are the next 3 states you have to visit and why that you've not been to in this 50 state journey?
Okay. So I can answer that because
Mhm.
you know I have my list.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love it.
All right. So top 3 states to visit and why. First would be Hawaii because that's a flight, like, and that's an expense. So if you're giving me money, I want to use the money to the
Okay. Mhm. All
to
right.
the best. But I'll say Hawaii because I personally love the beach and I am the happiest when I am in more tropical climates.
Mhm.
And so for me to be on an island, oh, it would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
amazing. And then also the culture. There, I love visiting places just to experience their like the world as they see it is how I like to look at it. So
Mhm.
definitely Hawaii. Um, I think, ooh, Washington State,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
why not? It's
Yeah.
clear across the country. And I don't know, excuse me, outright what's there.
Seattle.
But hmm?
Seattle.
Oh yes, Seattle, the needle. Yes. Come
Yeah. Yeah.
on. So Seattle, Washington for sure. And then Alaska. But while I was in Alaska, I would go on a Arctic cruise.
Okay. So this is a random caveat bucket list. My father-in-law, he's not been to Alaska, and that's still one of his things to do. So
Is it really? Well,
and it's
listen.
not just Alaska, it's more so that cruise, the
Hmm.
water. He's like, man, if I can't, if mobility is an issue, at least the water and that seeing the whales and all that is crazy.
Hmm.
So there you go. Like, so
Oh, I'm gonna
that's
have
the
to look for a
intersection.
trip for y'all. I'll look for a trip.
Yeah,
I'm
so
looking
that's
for a
it.
trip.
Like Hawaii, Washington, that's dope.
Hmm.
I love that. And okay, let me rephrase. Have you been to those 3 yet?
No, so those are the three.
Okay,
So I have, let me see.
yeah, perfect.
I have 21 states to go.
I'm gonna put in a crystal ball
Hmm.
at least 2 years. I know you're gonna knock off at least 2 out of 3 of these.
Oh, for sure. For
And
sure.
okay, by the end of 20 by the end of this year's one, by the end of 23, 2, and by 24, all 3 of these are gone with more. Plus, I'm just talking about these 3 are gone.
I love
It's
it.
happening. It's happening.
Yes.
I'm foreseeing that for you.
Claim it.
I'm
Speak
claiming
it.
this
I
for you.
love it. Okay.
I love
So
it.
shot for shot. So that means I have to ask you a question now.
Yeah, random question.
Ooh, random question. Random question.
Not related to this at all. Just random.
I know. Okay. So so I learned recently and listened to, I think, one of your podcasts that used to be a power lifter.
Yeah,
Did I hear that?
that's right.
Bodybuilder was a power lifter.
No, not body. No aesthetics. No six pack. Just straight
Powerlifting,
powerlifting
right?
strength. Yeah.
Powerlifting and strength. Okay. So thinking about that, have you, what if you had the time and I say money, so time and money
Mhm.
to focus on powerlifting, what would be your ultimate goal?
Okay. That's it. I mean, I actually put it on the board. I don't know. Maybe I'll get back to it someday. Uh, I used to be able to at deadlift 575 at 181, so 181 pounds. And
That's almost like what,
I'll send
triple
you a
your
video.
weight.
I'll send you a
What?
video offline when I used to do this. I look kind of the same. but it was just like my shoulders were broader. I,
Uh-huh.
I definitely, like I said, I didn't have no six pack. It wasn't, I still didn't even look like I lifted. It was all in my
You was just
legs.
strong.
Yes, strong back. My back was a little bit wider. My butt was
Uh-huh.
bigger. My legs was thicker.
Uh-huh.
My pants didn't fit. My pants at the waist fit, but the thighs didn't
The
fit.
thighs,
I just
yeah.
had tree trunk legs, and uh, I had it, and I still have. I'll send you a picture of that later too. I had the Virginia state record. Now, mind you, let me rephrase. State record doesn't mean it was the best lift ever. It was just the best lift at a competition that was recorded, like Guinness Book, right? Like
Okay. Okay.
someone out there in the world could hit a record, and you know, because it's recorded, it's the record. So I had a Virginia state record, like for one meet, and it
Okay.
lasted for like 2 weeks, and then someone actually did it. So I got a certificate that says Virginia state record in a deadlift, and that wasn't even 575. That was just like 550, right? And I got it
Just
recorded.
50, but okay.
No, no, because the guys in the 181 class that I watch online that were in
Mhm.
my class that win nationals and all that were hitting 600. I went to nationals one time. I went to a national big
Wow.
fish in a small pond. I was going to little powerlifting meets in Virginia, and I'm gonna come
Mhm.
back full circle. But I was going to powerlifting meets in Virginia, and it was cool. And I was lifting, and everyone was like, "That's that guy that screams a lot." That was me. I used to scream, and I did my thing. And then I went to nationals, and I was like, just imagine going somewhere and you see the best in the whole country, and you're not even top 50. I mean, I wasn't mad about it. I was happy just to be there. Like it's almost like I'm
Mhm.
happy to be in the room. But you see the strongest people I've ever seen, people my size lifting hundreds more. So full circle though, if I had this, I would love to have more Virginia regional
Mhm.
records that are homegrown. That if I go on the Virginia website for this powerlifting association, I see Philip Wilkerson for Virginia. I ain't worried about no national. I'm hood famous, and
Ah,
there
yes.
and reverse. There's still an opportunity, like maybe time, because with powerlifting they were doing what they call the open class,
Mhm.
meaning anyone, any age. But if you get
Okay.
older, they call it the masters, and there's like a master's class, 40 to 45,
Mhm.
45 to 50, 55, age wise, and then like 55 and up. Are you still lifting, right? So I still have a chance that someday in my life I can hit a bunch of masters records.
I
Meaning-
know. So there's
meaning-
hope for you yet.
So I would love to be like the top lifter in Virginia randomly in my 40s. I'm gonna get back. I got the lifting, I got the thing. And funny thing is, I don't even have to lift as much. I could be like 55 years old and hit 500, and they're like, "Oh my
Mhm.
God, you're strong for 55." You get what I'm saying? Like you're a strong old man. So I want to be that. I want to be a strong old man that gets back into that hobby. I just need to go back and lift. It was fun, and you bring that up. I keep on saying it. It was not for aesthetics. I was not going
Mhm.
to no beach competitions. I wasn't taking my shirt off and got a six. I never had. I just had brolic. I just had big shoulders. But
Mhm.
for me, there was two things I liked about powerlifting. One, which is kind of like public speaking, it was that all eyes were on you. Attention-seeking
Mhm.
behavior. Surprise, Philip Wilkerson. But it was like pressure moment. People looking at you. You are proving that you're strong in front of people.
Mhm.
Like when you're doing a public speaking, you're proving that you're well spoken in front of people. It's a
Mhm.
very visible thing. And
Yeah.
two, the other part was similar to public speaking, and that it's a very tangible way to show that, like, when you put all this hard work in,
Mhm.
there's a lot of times where you put in hard work and you get no tangible benefit, like no one notices. But if you go and lift and lift and lift and lift, and then you go to this competition and lift well, that's like I actually did the work
You
that
perform,
I
yeah. Like
performed.
your input
The input.
matched your
Yeah,
output.
yeah. It was like you see it. You can see it
Right.
on paper. You can see it.
You see your
So
reward. Your
I
you
used to
see
love
your
going.
ROI, your
Yeah,
return on your investment. You
that's
can
it.
see it, you can feel it, you can touch it, you can
Duh.
taste
My last
it.
power. I remember my last powerlifting meet was when Bennett was 2
Mhm.
and no miles in existence. And It's
Oh
hard.
yeah.
It took a lot. That was like when you think of all the things, that was I had no podcast like that. So this
Mm-hmm.
replaced the podcast. That was like right now at 10 o'clock. Instead of doing podcasts with you, I was lifting at night by myself in the gym. I didn't go to the gym during the day. I had to do it at night by myself after
Mm-hmm.
bedtime, after my Bennett's bedtime. But
Right.
I don't know, man. I keep on hearing this. I know I've been putting this off for too many years, but that was fun. That was a lot of fun. At least I still got that random paper. But I love that question. So thank you.
You're
Thank you for asking
welcome.
that.
You're
Masters
welcome.
records, here I come. I just gotta turn 40 first. Then it's
Yeah.
40 up. Like,
40 and up. They give you a couple. You
no,
got plenty of years. You got some years
40.
ahead of you.
I gotta look up the record for Virginia. Like I told you, it's not national. I ain't going national. I just want the US. It's called USAPL, like United States
Mm-hmm.
Powerlifting Federation. I just want
Mm-hmm.
the USAPL records for Virginia in my age group.
I
I'm
love
pretty
it.
sure
I
it's
can't
not
wait to see
100.
it. I know it's gonna happen. We're gonna speak that into existence. We're gonna
Yeah,
call it in.
big belly and all. I don't care. I'll be just
That's all right.
no. It's saying as long as I make weight class. So there it
Exactly.
is.
That's what matters.
That was matters.
That is what
So
matters.
this has been a great episode. Actually, this really filled me up. This was great. I learned a lot. I learned about your experiences. We shared some information. Actually, we put a pin in maybe a to be continued. I think we have so many more things we can talk about. You're going to definitely, Janae. I know this. We actually put this on the calendar a while ago, but
We
now you're
did.
going to have to be a return guest. But now that we did a shot for shot, the next segment, shout outs and plugs. So this is an opportunity for you to share love, show love to anyone. It don't matter. Show love to anyone that you want to show love to. And then
Mhm.
additionally, plugs. These are ways that the listeners can connect with you if you want them to connect with you, and things that you're working on so that they can support you. So I'll keep my mouth shut. Shout outs and plugs.
All right. Well, thank you. First, shout out to you, Phil, for thinking of little old me to come onto your your platform. I appreciate the time. And then, I have to also shout out my family and my village, because my village is so strong. I wouldn't do half of the things I do without them, to be honest. Uh, I am not the person who likes to be front and center often. I like to really be in the background. And my villages has been encouraging and pushing me forward more recently. So I appreciate them so much for that. And then, of course, shout out to my BAC family. I love y'all. I love all of my Mason peeps, all my Mason peeps. And then plugs. So, yes, please connect with me. I am on far too many social media platforms, but the ones that are, I think, the easiest to get to me are Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Miss Janae, and that's Miss Janae. And then on LinkedIn as well, just put in Janae D Johnson. I always have to have the D. Got it? You need the initial. Bill, I'll give you the link so you can make it easier for the people. And then professionally, outside, if I don't do a lot already, I also have a small consulting and design company, Janae Danielle Consulting and Design. And you can find me on Instagram there at Janae Danielle Co. And with JD Co. That's what my short name for her. So with JD Co. and Phil, you kind of alluded to this earlier. I really just help people figure out their business and or event programming needs. And sometimes that comes in the way of being a thought partner and an idea generator. And then other times it comes to logistics and planning and helping you map it out. And Phil, what you've seen as my fellow 40 under 40 2022 honoree, it comes to light design work. And I say I put emphasis on the light because I am big on ideas always. But yeah, that's those are my plugs.
I was really about to say, I'm glad you plugged that because I will say to the listeners, Janae is a very organized person. I think I'm very sporadic, but I would say this to you: you're very thoughtful, and in regards to big ideas and making them not say simplified, but making ideas succinct and make sense. And then in regards to brand management, uh,
Mm-hmm.
you help multiple people make their announcements for the 40 under 40. And what I mean by that announcements, as in the social media, but they were very thoughtful in that graphic. And so
Mm-hmm.
I can attest, if you follow me and put that on my Instagram, when I had a 40 under 40 and I made a graphic for that, I did not make the graphic. Janae made the graphic, and and used her
Yeah.
services myself. So I totally attest to that. It was very thoughtful. First, she did it for herself, which I love. It was like, if you're gonna test the idea, you test it on yourself. And I said, "How'd you do that?" It's like, "It's me." Okay, holla at your boy. I'm gonna help you. Yeah, I need your help. So
You
definitely,
did, and I appreciate it because I don't put myself out there a lot. I'm very much a it will come as it's supposed to come kind of person. And I'm a woman of faith above all else. And one thing that has always guided me is that what is supposed to be and is destined for me will be, even if I don't see it in that moment. I just firmly believe that it'll happen. So I
yeah.
appreciate
And
you being
multiple
in my
people did
circle.
followed it, and multiple people, I think, and this is the feel good, give flowers while people are alive. The thing
Yeah.
that I always wanted to say to you as a leader is, one, I think uh that empathy and team dynamic, you are a great leader in that sense. You're someone that actually does a really good job of seeing people, being empathetic, making people grow. And even when people have shortcomings, which I have a lot, you keep
We all
people
do.
engaged. You all do.
We
Where
all do.
that's one thing that keeps people wanting to be participants and wanting to be engaged and wanting
Mm.
to elevate. And I think with the activities that you're doing with your company and the activities that you're doing with your design, is that, as you said, it's not, you weren't pushy about it, but because people connect with you first and foremost, then the support, not to say the support comes, but people just will do, like, yeah, of course, yeah, like,
Mhm.
uh you know
Yeah,
you know you know people support people, and so that's great. So please,
always.
this will be in the show notes, all the information. Connect with Janae, holla at Janae, get brand advice and critiques about yourself and programs and ideas. I'm not going to ask her to charge her. If I have a barbecue, I'm going to ask her for ideas, but I'm not going to pay her for that because this is a barbecue.
Whoa.
I'll just tease it. But you come to my house, I might need some ideas, like, logistically, should I have two girls or one? But I ain't going. I can't. I ain't shelling out money for that. But
Listen now, you gotta
if it
pay
was
for
a
my
grand
services
party,
now.
I might need your help. You know what I'm saying? And I
Okay.
will need your help. Big party, big party. But
Got that. I
everyone
got
else,
that. I
thank
got
you
you.
so much. Please connect with Janae. Please support her. Also, please engage. I'm gonna say this lastly. Please engage. I'll put the show notes here. The Black Alumni. If you are a Black alum of J, if you're a Black alum of GMU, I got almost confused. If you're a Black
Mhm.
alum of GMU, please, 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 I highly encourage you to connect. And the reason I do is because community, fellowship, support, and if you do connect and you can also get a little bit of professional development that helps you in your normal life. So that's one. And two, please connect with Janae on her social media. So, um,
Absolutely. Get involved. And for those who aren't, Mason alum, get involved with your alumni chapters. Come on now. Show
yes,
up.
and
Show
I'm putting
out.
all that. And so, as we do, if you have any voicemails for the podcast, it's 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. Sometimes I take the voicemails, put them, the audio of that voicemail on the podcast, and show some love to my listeners that leave voicemails. Additionally, please share this episode with your family and friends. Sharing this episode will elevate it and also connect others. And lastly, if you're listening to this, give it a like, a subscribe, a review on Apple and Spotify, all those things that helps elevate the podcast. But this has been a great episode. Thank you so much. Continue to share positivity, and we're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.